Well, guys, I'm finally letting myself get excited for a Nintendo Direct. Oh, I can't believe that the time is coming. I know this is not an official announcement from Nintendo, but we just had some confirmations talking about how this thing's going to be happening imminently from some very reliable journalists that are now obviously backing the Nate the Hate reports and the beat 'em up stuff and attack the backlog in Nashville. Look, the evidence is mounting. It is too large. Whenever there's this many people coming together, especially a couple journalists here at the last possible moment, that's when you know that I can, well, confidently say a Nintendo Direct is happening next week. I know it's not an announcement by Nintendo. People are going to scream clickbait. They're going to get mad at me. And then guess what? The Direct is going to happen anyways, just like every other video I've ever done this on. Any video where I have said a Nintendo Direct is happening before it's announced, it actually does. We're not talking about rumors. We're not talking about like, oh, we're speculating and it might be. No, when I say it is, it's happened every single time. So I'm going to keep with my track record of when the right people talk, it's worth paying attention to, and the right people are talking, so now it's worth paying attention to. Before we dive into the additional confirmation that comes from two major journalists today, I'm going to go ahead and remind you that two lucky people get to win a game of choice. All you have to do is enter down in the link in the pinned comment or the description. You can pick a game for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch, Switch 2, or even PC. It's just got to be a standard edition of the game because some of you publishers out there are doing like these weird deluxe versions that are like $300, which I don't have a problem buying someone except for they don't even come with the game. So we're going to stick with standard edition so we don't have to worry about any of that craziness. And yeah, we'll announce the winner at some point in August. And we might even get a new giveaway going on afterwards. In fact, we technically have another giveaway going on secretly that hasn't gotten enough attention. And that is that we're also giving away 5 4-day passes to PAX West. That's right. We have teamed up with PAX West. Me and the Nintendo Byte podcast have teamed up to give away 5 4-day passes. That link will also be in the description to enter. Thank you so much to PAX West for enabling us to do that giveaway. And the winners for that are going to be through a Gleam link down below. You'll be contacted by PAX West themselves, and I'm really excited that we get to do that. I think each of those passes has a value of like $255 or something, so pretty crazy. Doesn't include flights or hotel or any of that, so obviously only if you're in like the Seattle, Washington area should you really be applying, or if you're willing to travel. By the way, this is actually an extra special PAX West because not only is it the first PAX West I've ever been to, the entire podcast crew is going to PAX West. Me, Thunderstash Gaming, Gamebird Classic, Eric Moore, and heck, our wives and all of that. We're all going to be going to PAX West. It's an opportunity to meet us in person and have a damn good time. So let's go ahead and dive into the actual stuff that's even more exciting than those giveaways. So here we are over at Video Game Chronicle, and you can see Andy Robinson put up this article. It actually was yesterday. Well, I guess technically today, but I saw this yesterday. I kind of ignored the article because we already reported a little bit on Metroid Prime 4 stuff, and it is notable that Metroid Prime 4 has been rated, so that's obviously a good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be coming out soon, but it is slated to come out in 2025, so soon, 5 months, sometime in there. That's news in and of itself. But hidden in this article is actually some corroboration of a report. So, obviously, it says, according to a listing published on Friday, the Switch title has been rated ages 12 and up due to mild violence. Now, Metroid Prime 4 is due to release sometime this year for the original Nintendo Switch, according to the company, with an enhanced version for Switch 2. This is the big part here. According to reports, Nintendo is planning to hold a Nintendo Direct stream imminently, which matches with what Video Game Chronicle has heard from sources. So more than one source, where it is likely to announce an official release date for Prime 4. That is speculation at the end there. Obviously, they're not saying what's in it. Also, there is, some descriptions here of what Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is. We already know, but that's not the only journalist speaking up. We have Christopher Dring coming out of left field over on X. Sounds like next week's Direct is going to be a chunky one. And then he's over here doing the dance, DK64 style. If you don't know who Christopher Dring is, he is the editor-in-chief and co-founder of the game business. He's also worked at several other major publications in the past. So there you have it. The two major journalists that have their sources that are backing up the fact that there is a Nintendo Direct happening imminently, and Christopher Drink saying that it's going to be a chunky one. So what does a chunky one mean? One, likely a general Nintendo Direct. That seems to be where things are heading when you're talking about it being a chunky Direct. Could be one of those 30-minute, maybe 45-minute style directs that Nintendo does every now and then. And that does mean there's probably going to be a ton of stuff packed into this direct, both first party and third party. And I can't say this. Well, actually I can. It couldn't come soon enough. I think we're all excited for the future of Switch 2, those of us that own the platform. Obviously, we know the internet's kind of dominated with this negative conversation going around the system where every story, even if it's a positive one, somehow gets twisted into the negative. And what ends up happening in this entire conversation, whether it's about the price points or whether it's about system bricking or whatever conversation's going on, is the games are getting lost. Look, obviously the controversy around an $80 Mario Kart World is one thing, but even Donkey Kong Bonanza, like, it's an amazing game, and now that we're a week out, it's starting to get lost in this conversation because there's not a lot of other really exciting things with release dates right now for people to look forward to. I mean, even Kirby Air Riders is supposed to come out this year. We literally do not have any footage of the actual game. We just have like a little animation cutscene CGI thing that introduced us that the game is coming, but we don't have anything else. So we are at this point now where I do truly feel like we are in desperate need of a big chunky direct. And that's why when Christopher Drink comes out here and says, you know, a big chunky direct, you know, it's coming. That's what I actually get really excited about, because this means we're going to have a big one. Now, we already are getting excited behind the scenes at the Nintendo by Podcast, planning to do some Nintendo Direct bingos and all of that. So that's pretty exciting. But I want to set the bingo stuff aside because that's just something that we'll probably end up doing Wednesday night, assuming the Direct is on Thursday. Of course, if the Direct is on Thursday, we're already planning to do a bonus episode of the Nintendo Byte Podcast that night. So that should be really exciting. We're not going to make you guys wait a whole week for us to get into the Direct hype. We're going to get into it same freaking day. But obviously the Direct could be on Wednesday, and that lines up with our podcast anyway. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty exciting show, regardless of if you're at the Wednesday one, the Thursday one, or if the Direct's on Wednesday, then we just have a really jam-packed Wednesday show. I also want to just talk about the business in general for Nintendo. Right now, there's some pretty good news for just general consumers. The Switch 2, at least as of the reporting of this video, when I'm recording this, seems to be pretty readily available in most retail outlets. Every retail outlet seems to have a handful of units on shelves, and it is available to purchase online at most retail stores. As I said, at the time of recording this video, maybe by the time you watch this video, that's not true. Maybe your local stores are sold out. Maybe the online listings are sold out. You know, I can't obviously predict that that's what's going to happen. I can't know what's selling and what's not selling. But what I do want to note here is, now that the Switch 2 is seemingly caught up to the demand and is now, you know, not that difficult to buy anymore, no one's got to pay that much attention to restocks or anything to get your hands on one. Now is the time for the games to start talking. And that is where we really need this Direct. I know everyone always talks about appreciate what we already have. You know, Donkey Kong Bonanza just came out not that long ago. We should be appreciating that game. Mario Kart World's not that old. We should be appreciating that game. And I understand that, but here's the reality. Not all consumers were excited for DK Bonanza. Not all consumers were excited for Mario Kart World, because not everyone enjoys those kind of games. Consumers want variety. They want different types of things to look forward to. And let's be honest, when you spend $500 or $450, as is the base MSRP for the Nintendo Switch 2 on a brand new system, what you want is confidence in upcoming games. You want upcoming games to look well, you want them to play well, and you want to be excited for them because you just bought a new toy. Let's just be honest. It's a toy. And when you buy something like that, you want to be excited about the future. And while we have a lot of promise for the future, a lot of the promise is built on the premise that we're in a new generation, rather than having actual dates for games and knowing much about the lineup the next 9 months and all of that jazz. So yeah, we know about Pokemon Legends ZA, but it's a Switch 1 game. We know about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It's supposed to be coming to Switch 2, but it's also a Switch 1 game. So for Switch 2 only games, it's Kirby Air Riders, Age of Imprisonment, Dust Bloods, which is next year, so we're not going to worry too much about that right now. And I'm probably forgetting one. I know Dragon Drive, right, is in there. And it does feel like they're missing out on a big Switch 2 exclusive holiday game. So that could be announced in this Direct. So look, I just think that we're at this point that we need this Direct. Arguably, we could have used this Direct even earlier, maybe at the end of June or the beginning of July, but you can understand where maybe they wanted to let Bonanza shine a little bit. And look, Bonanza looks like it's going to be a Game of the Year contender at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards, so it was probably the right decision to let that game shine. But now we need to talk about future games, because Bonanza is going to hopefully keep selling. I hope it ends up being an evergreen title, mostly because I think the game is fantastic. I actually don't care about the overall sales numbers. That's a business side, like Nintendo cares about the sales, but I care about it being evergreen because it just means we're going to get more and more Donkey Kong moving forward, and that just brings Donkey Kong into a new level as an IP. It's just like, Breath of the Wild that sold 30 plus million copies. It's like, yeah, that's exciting for me because at the time it was my favorite Zelda game, but also what it did do is ensure that we were going to get more and more open world Zelda games, which we already got one in Tears of the Kingdom, and now we have presumably another one in development that'll come out 3-4 years from now. So for me, I actually view game sales not so much as we should tout this over other companies or use this in console wars or try to defeat haters. I actually view it more as, hey, this game I really, really like is selling well, which means we're going to get more of that kind of game down the line. That's what makes me excited. So I do hope Donkey Kong Bonanza, we hear the sales are good, and we hope that it continues to be good and continues to be an evergreen title. So maybe we get another one before the end of the generation or another one at the beginning of the next generation, that kind of stuff. Obviously, it also was made by the Mario team, which just makes me even more excited for the next big 3D Mario game, because, that's a game that's got even more pizzazz and more behind it, because Mario is the mascot of Nintendo and maybe even more popular than Mario's ever been with the upcoming movie and the success of the last movie and all the Lego sets and the last 3D Mario game. I know, gosh, it's 2017, but it sold the most out of any 3D Mario game ever. So, yeah, we're just in need of this Direct. So I could give you a bunch of predictions. We actually did an episode, was it not last week, but the week before, not our last episode, so the episode before that, we actually did Nintendo Direct predictions just in case the Direct happened. Now we're going to go from that into making bingo cards. We'll probably invite all of the fans in to make bingo cards as well and do prizes like we did last time. Again, assuming the Direct's on Thursday. If it's on Wednesday, there won't really be time to pull that off. But I just want to know what your guys' thoughts are on the Switch 2 to date. If you own a Switch 2, have you been happy with your purchase? Are you excited for this Direct? If you don't own a Switch 2 and the reason isn't just simply, hey, I can't afford it yet, which I totally understand, is there any other reasons you maybe have decided so far you're not going to buy one yet? Is the game library not where you want it to be yet? Which, again, is actually a good argument for why we need a Direct, but is it just because you're concerned about some of the practices Nintendo has going on? Totally understandable. Not going to sit here and tell you to feel any differently. I will say it is a little wild about some of the misinformation still going around. Here's the problem. Nintendo has legitimately made some anti-consumer decisions that there's not really any overall defense for, because look, it's just not good for people. But then there's other things that are getting blown out of proportion. I saw a friend of the channel, and I'm not going to shout out his video, but I was actually watching it today because I don't want to draw some negative attention to him, because he's actually a pretty good dude. In his video, he's talking about all the negative sides, like all the bad things that about Nintendo. And one of the stories towards the beginning was something about, Nintendo banning a Switch over a username. And I remember covering that story, and it turned out that username was not why that person was banned, and it actually was a mistake. And that person has been unbanned since. So it's one of those things where that story is still being talked about today because it made so many damn headlines, and then those headlines never got corrected. And as always, the actual real story, the corrections on the stories, never seem to get as much attention as the actual original headlines. And that's what's so dangerous about running headlines on incomplete stories and not letting them develop. And look, I'm guilty as well of covering things and not letting stories develop. And I'm trying to do better in letting it go. Like when this VGC article went out, I didn't rush a video out. I wanted to sit and I wanted to wait a little bit and see, hey, now that Video Game Chronicle is corroborating this, is anyone else from other outlets going to come and talk about it direct? And sure enough, Christopher Dring came out about an hour ago. And that was actually like, cool. I'm glad I waited, because he's talking about this being a damn chunky Direct, and that is information we couldn't get from the Video Game Chronicle one, just the hope that Metroid Prime 4 would get a release date. So Let me know as well, obviously, your preliminary predictions for this direct, and then what you want to be in the direct. So like a wish list, and then I guess what you think will happen. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to read those lists down below. You guys are awesome, and I'll catch you in the next video.